Okay, I'm finally back with Season 1, Episode 2 of Shardlake. And I have a review up that I found simply so I can, remember names. Since anyone who is familiar with this channel knows that takes me a while to figure out who is who when it's not the main characters. So anyway, the episode starts off with Shardlake talking to Brother Guy. Brother Guy is finishing up for the day, getting things ready for the morning, based on his protestations when Shardlake grabbed him. I'm unsure which one it is. But it's dark out. Shardlake had woken up and grabs Brother Guy and asks him to walk him through what happened when he found Singleton. So they walk into the kitchen. Now there is only one way in, one way out, and only certain people have the key. So you could tell from the questioning that Shardlake suspects Brother Guy, but at this point, everyone seems to be a suspect. Except for, like I said, the doctor and Simon. So, he walks through, and then it's like, well, either, since there's only one way in and one way out, and you immediately left, either he waited for you to leave, so he was there while you came to inspect the body, or you're the one who killed him, and Brother Guy's like, yeah, I didn't do that. I didn't kill him. So, yeah, that's disturbing. So, I'm getting the feeling that it's not Brother Guy, because that's a little too obvious. Now, maybe I'm wrong. I'm unfamiliar with the books, and that statement will come into more relevance later on. But, so I have absolutely no clue. I have no idea if the ending's going to follow the books, if the killer is going to be the same as in the books, or if they're going to try a surprise twist. No, nothing. I just know that those books are on my wish list on Google Play. So, let's continue. So then we switch over to the church where Bugs tells Gabriel that, that Simon's in the infirmary and that, he should go see him because he's fond of him. Now, for those who are confused as to why Gabriel freaked out at the thought that someone said he's fond of Simon, is because that's code for homosexuality. So he's basically suggesting that they are lovers. Or at least that Gabriel is gay and that his fondness is, a attraction to him. I'm completely unsure, but I'm pretty sure the first interpretation is correct. And so he's looking around, hoping nobody hears. I mean, this is freaking him out. And for those who think that being LGBT plus in this environment really sucks, 16th century would be even worse. I mean, Stonewall would have been a pipe dream. to be able to have a place like Stonewall to go to, even if it occasionally got raided, would be a pipe dream for gay people in the 16th century. So he is rightfully freaking out because he doesn't want people, even if he is truly gay, he doesn't want people finding out. Bugs obviously knows and seems to give less than a shit about the fact that he's gay. Now, or even that he has a thing going on with Simon. Neither one seems to bother him at all. Now, of course, for a lot of people who are anti-woke, I should just say anti-woke, they might think, oh, this is just wokeness being thrown in. No, there were allies even in the 16th century. This wasn't anything new. It's just that nowadays there's more allyship. It's not quite as difficult as it was back then to be part of the LGBT plus community. So, let's see. He also wants him to talk to Simon, so he basically tells Simon not to talk. And Jerome does the same thing when he visits Simon later on. He whispers to him, don't tell him anything you know. And considering the way Simon reacted later on, I wonder if either Jerome or Brother Guy, or maybe it was just the fever. I mean, this is the 16th century. It's not like they had very basic medicine. It wasn't like they had absolutely nothing, but fever reducers wasn't what they are now. So it's entirely possible that his fever was just off the charts. That's entirely possible. Or it could be that someone slipped him something. Considering the looks everyone gives each other whenever Shardlake asks a question or puts forward a theory, everybody's looking at each other like, oh God, I hope he doesn't figure it out. So since everybody's giving that look to each other, God knows what's happening here. It sounds like a lot of messed up stuff is going on here. So anyway, so then Shardlake decides he wants to meet with the abbot, Mortimer, and all the other monks in the courtyard. And he wants to know why Simon was starved and beaten so brutally. Which, unless I missed it, they never answered that. Well, that was one of the things. And before that, he woke up He woke up Jack. Which, first up, what the hell is Jack doing sleeping in so late? But, he's like, why didn't you wake me? So they go to the courtyard. Like I said, he asks about why Simon was being starved and beaten, which continues the theory that someone probably slipped him something so he wouldn't talk, because obviously it would be perfectly fine to knock him off. It's perfectly fine because, they thought next of nothing to him if they have no problem with starving and beating him, right? So, Let's see. He also calls out, like, Mortimer for his temper, which, he points out he's a soldier, which, again, I feel sorry for his unit, because what does that matter? Okay, he was a soldier. He killed many in battle, so he suggested that maybe he might have something to do with it. And, let's see, others pointed out that, yeah, he was, a bunch of us were soldiers, so what of it? So then the abbot mentioned that on the same day that Singleton was killed, a holy relic was stolen. Which, okay, that's new information. That's not something that was imparted first thing, but then again, it's so much has happened that it's probably hard to process, so okay. But this is the first we've heard about it. And Jack comes in late, and he sounds like, I don't know if he wants to show up Shardlake. He wants to feel useful. I'm not exactly sure what is his deal, but he's always acting like he rules the roost. It is just pathetic. It's like, what are you doing? Seriously, do you feel so insecure about yourself that you have to make yourself out to be something you're not? So anyway, the monks decided that it must have been followers of Satan that killed Singleton and stole the holy relic. And Shardlake's like, really? That's your story, and you're saying I'm the one with the imagination. Cool. And like I said, Jack seems to desperately want to inject something into this conversation just so he can feel useful. But in reality, he's just there. Which, why is he there again? At first I thought it was basically a bodyguard for Shardlake, but now I'm wondering if he isn't supposed to be hot-headed Watson to Shardlake's Sherlock Holmes, because what the hell, Jack? That is just, he was just acting really bizarre this whole episode. Like, he took it as a personal insult that he wasn't revered the same way as Shardlake is. Even though there's good reason for that. Shardlake's the lawyer. He's the one who's trying to figure out what the hell happened. And Jack is there. Again, I don't know if he was supposed to be his personal bodyguard, or, what exactly is his role here? Maybe that's it. Maybe that's why Jack was acting so weird this whole episode, because he wants to be more involved in the investigation. Or maybe he has his own idea of justice. He obviously hates the church. That is patently obvious. Now, I don't know why he hates the church. I mean, Shardlake has a very good reason to hate the church. And he's perfectly fine and calm through this whole thing. And Jack is losing his absolute mind. So yeah, it's just, like I said, Jack has been acting bizarre this whole episode. So, So during lunch, Goodhap asked permission to leave, and that he told Shardlake everything, but Jack intervenes and tells him he has to stay till the investigation is concluded. And I don't know what Shardlake would have said. If Shardlake would have said, I'm sorry, you have to stay because we need to be sure that, in case something comes up, we need you to corroborate. Who knows what he was going to say? Because Jack intervened, and I don't know, he felt the need to just back Jack up, or he just was like, I agree with Jack, but, I'm not as hot-headed about it as he is, but I'm just going to let him have his moment. I honestly don't know, because it sounded like Shardlake was going to say something, and Jack just took over. Again, this is proof of Jack, trying to, desperately wanting to be a part of this investigation. He wants to feel useful, which I feel for him. I get it. He wants to feel useful. But, dude, this is not helping. Let Shardlake do the talking. So, and Goodhap even points out who he was, who Jack was, before Cromwell found him. And implying that he now is acting all high and mighty because he got lucky and Cromwell, snatched him up and dusted him off and, set him off to work for him. So now thinks that he's so powerful and he's so awesome, when it wasn't that long ago he was in the gutter. Probably literally. So, okay, that explains some of why Jack is acting the way he is. He's acting the way he is because, not just that he wants to prove himself, but he probably has a serious case of imposter syndrome, because he's now working for Cromwell when he was less than dirt not that long ago. So, yeah, I could see that as, doing something. Imposter syndrome sucks. But I don't know if lashing out like that is a good way to deal with it. But this isn't exactly a time period where mental health and therapy was a thing. So, yeah. So then Shardlake and Shardlake decide to go to town to find out about sale of land mentioned in the monastery's books. Which, Shardlake mentioned about certain things that he saw in the books, and Jack is getting very annoyed because he wants things to be straightforward. Basically, he just wants to close the monastery. I question if he actually cares about Singleton being murdered, or, whether he cares at all. He even suggested, let's just make stuff up. We don't know what's going on, so let's just make stuff up. So, yeah, Jack was not putting himself in a great light with this. So, they go to town, and Jack is just livid that this is why we have to close down the monastery, because these monks are living high on the hog, which about as high on the hog as you can for a bunch of monks, and while everyone else starves. And I'm thinking, dude, you could say that about people like Cromwell and King Henry VIII. I mean, it's not just the church that's, hoarding wealth here. But yeah, he has a huge hatred for the church. So they go to, a Justice Coppinger, and they ask him to check the records, compare the bills, compare the receipts, basically do everything. And he's like, I can't do that quickly. I have to go and look and go to the actual buyers and sellers. I can't just, because, this is before paper receipts. He doesn't have actual receipts to look at. So, so they want him to find out if there are any discrepancies. And again, Jack is pushing his weight around because, again, I don't know if it's imposter syndrome or just a visceral hatred of the church or both, but he was being a serious pain in the butt this entire episode. So then after they leave, someone comes out. It looks like he was sitting in a confessional, actually. Or it's just that that's the kind of screen they had in that building. But he looks like he's a priest. And he basically tells Coppinger that, I want you to give me your findings on, I think, the third day, he said. And then on the fifth day, you can give it to Shardlake. So that's not creepy and weird at all. Obviously, he wants to inform the abbot, or at least whomever is doing shady shit in the monastery. I think it was Edvin is the bookkeeper. I can't remember the name. And he probably wants to warn them so they can, I don't know, make alternate arrangements to prevent Shardlake from finding out stuff that he shouldn't or something. But anyway, basically cover their tracks, so that's one less reason to shut them down. It's bad enough that there's a murder. And that's why they want the murderer to be outside of the monastery, because they don't want to give the king and Cromwell and Shardlake a reason to shut down the monastery, even though it's on the list. So he gets back to the monastery, and Jerome wants to meet with him. And this is where we get into a bit of history. Because, now, I'm not sure about the name of the supposed lover of Anne Boleyn, but the story is true. Anne Boleyn did not commit adultery. Thomas Cromwell and Henry VIII just wanted someone to claim that so he would have an excuse to kill Anne Boleyn. Which, again, may I remind you, King Henry VIII separated from the Catholic Church because he wanted to be able to divorce his wives. And now he's still killing them. Seriously, how messed up is that? Why did you bother claiming that you wanted to be able to divorce? Obviously, there was another reason you had to separate from the Catholic Church. And it wasn't so you could divorce, because you didn't do that. Actually, maybe for one of his wives he did that, but for everyone else he basically just used the guillotine. Which, again, what the hell? Yes, Cromwell and King Henry VIII were not the good guys that Jack and Shardlake seem to think that they are. Or maybe Shardlake he seems to be more willing to listen to Jerome, even though he doesn't completely believe him. He's willing to at least listen and contemplate that maybe he could be wrong. Whereas Jack is like completely drunk the Kool-Aid and thinks that Cromwell can do no wrong, and that Cromwell, that Jerome is just spouting ridiculous stuff. So he sees a vision of the supposed lover, and we even see him being on the rack, which, yeah, didn't need that. Basically saying, pray for me, and it's not clear whether he actually did what he suggested and burn his story. Hide the truth. We do not know. But it did come out. All this stuff did come out, so maybe Shardlake didn't burn the letter. Maybe a part of him was like, maybe there's something to this. Because he isn't a hothead. He is contemplative. He's a freaking lawyer. He's methodical. He's not going to just jump to whatever conclusion. So, let's see, what else? He also told Shardlake that Cromwell will discard him when he's no longer useful, which, he apparently, according to what he said to Alice, he's been working for Cromwell for years. So, yeah, probably if and when Shardlake comes to the realization that Cromwell is not the guy he thinks he is, like the idea that they're going to keep the riches for themselves. It's not like they're going to give the riches from these monasteries back to the people. So, which is true. History has proven that right. They did not do that because they're greedy fucks. Jack is still convinced that that's what they're going to do because he at least truly believes that the money should not be going to the church. But I think his is coming from a good place. We saw that when he grabbed the coins and from the offering and threw them on the ground for the kids to take. His resentment is coming from a good place, even if there is some cognitive dissonance, because again, the king isn't exactly poor. He's hoarding wealth too. So is Thomas Cromwell. So is that Lord whatever that wanted Shardlake to report to him when he got back. So, yeah. This is, it's basically rich people versus rich people. Even though the monks don't live like they're rich, they have wealth. We all know the Catholic Church has always had wealth. They've always had wealth, and especially this time they had a lot of power. So, then we get to the second death. Simon regains consciousness and starts running like an absolute lunatic through the monastery. And he seems terrified. Now, we don't know of what. We don't know of who. But he's running like a man possessed. And we did see a little bit from his perspective when he looked at Shardlake, and it was very blurry. So it is entirely possible that he had a humongous fever that he was absolutely delirious. That is entirely possible. Again, this is 16th century. The medicine wasn't exactly top notch, even though they did try. They didn't exactly have absolute zero, but they didn't have much more than that. So, he mentions that Shardlake was sent by the devil, which I believe Jerome is the one who said that. So, obviously, Jerome was influencing him by talking to him while he was supposedly unconscious. He was in a fevered state, and, so he did say this. Shardlake tries to run after him, tries to help him. It looks like Simon was mocking the way he walks. Shardlake walks, which, as an aside, this episode you actually saw a little bit of a hunch. So, I guess he is a bit of a hunchback. It's just not as pronounced as say, Quasimodo. But he is a hunchback. So, he thinks that he was just mocking him. But I wonder if it was just delirium. And I knew as he started running away, that he was going to end up falling to his death. And it did indeed happen that he ended up falling to his death. We saw Alice and Brother Guy trying to run after Simon. Now, again, I don't know if someone slipped him something or if this was just the fact that, his fever was top notch. But he does ask Brother Guy, it's like, wait, you said that his fever broke. And he said, yeah, it did. But, no, it's entirely possible that it came back in gangbusters. I mean, it's possible that happened. I'm not going to say that Brother Guy was lying, but he did. I mean, this show is doing a great job of making everyone suspect. Everyone seems to have a secret. So it's entirely possible that Brother Guy is lying, or it's also possible that his fever just came back. And because, again, medicine is not the best. So, after all of that, and, Jack and Shardlake are both like, well, isn't that convenient? And Jack says that right to Brother Guy's face. Well, that's convenient. Because, Brother Guy had also tried to prevent Simon from talking. So, yeah, nobody wanted Simon to talk to Shardlake, and now he's dead. So, Shardlake goes to the marsh, and he's just standing by the lake and takes Simon's crucifix, which this was weird because he first grabbed it from the lake when he found it, and that's when Simon woke up and started running like a madman. So that's freaky, and they're trying to, make this biblical or something, some sort of godly, divine interference or something. I don't know. But, he puts it back in the lake. And, then he starts walking. And unfortunately, he walks in the wrong place. So he starts sinking in the muddy marsh. like it was quicksand. You know, first one leg falls in, and he's like, oh, that's not good. And I thought, and it seemed like he then decided to put his other leg in, just go whole into the marsh. Which, why? I mean, he was trying to pull his leg out at first, and then he decided to get a better grip by putting both legs in the marsh. And I'm like, yeah, that was smart. So he starts sinking, and he starts calling for help. And I'm just wondering, okay, who is going to be the person to help him? Now, I was hoping it was Jack, because that's kind of what I thought was his purpose in this mission, was to keep an eye on Shardlake and keep him alive. But no, it was Alice. First, she hands him a scarf, and he has a deformed hand. So he was only grabbing with one hand, so that didn't work. So she just used her arms to grab him and pull him out. And, so he then talks with Alice. They're having a nice conversation. Jack tries to flirt with Alice. She's getting a drink for Shardlake. And he's like, well, how about a smile? So even in the frickin' 16th century, stupid men think that the best thing that they can tell a woman is to smile more. So that's nice to know that that's nothing new. And so yeah, she basically told him off, which he was like, wait, what's going on? What happened? And so she's talking with Shardlake, and he's asking her about how she came to be at the marsh. Apparently, they're bonding over their love of the peacefulness of the marsh, which I'm like, if they put them together. Now, I don't think that's the kind of show this is, that there's going to be a romance. So I'm hoping that it's just more of an attraction, but an unrequited one. So then she asks him about Cromwell, that, she didn't expect him to work for him because Singleton was complete opposite of Shardlake. And Shardlake's quite happy to hear that he's nothing like Singleton. So it doesn't sound like he approved of his ways either. So then we get to Jack. So Good Hap decides that he doesn't feel safe in the monastery. So he packs his things and he tries to sneak off. Jack catches him and goes after him. And, Good Hap is like, oh, I'm just deciding to take this horse for a ride, exercise. Or it's like, yeah, all your things are packed. So Good Hap does what any innocent person would do in this situation. He drew a knife on Jack. Which, yeah, that's smart. So and Jack at first was, staying back, trying to talk to him. And then he is like, okay, fine. So he draws his sword and he keeps it like this, which, I mean, I get it. You're waiting to see what he's going to do. But I should have seen what ended up happening coming. He runs right to Jack, which it's like, dude, his sword is right like this. What do you think you're going to do except impale yourself on it? Which he actually does. And so as he's dying, Jack blames him for him killing him by saying that, look what you made me do. Which, I'm sorry, that never is not funny. He promises him his death won't be in vain, that he'll pray for him, that, something good will come out of his death. And so your question is, because he went so quickly from, look what you made me do, to, it's going to be okay, your death will be avenged, did he really not want to kill him? Because he seemed to, or maybe he was like, well, he's already dead, so, that he's just a quick thinker and figured out, maybe I could, use this to my benefit. Now, it could be that he's going to try to blame this on whomever killed Singleton, which isn't completely off the wall. Even the doctor thought he was a target. Or he just simply is going to I don't know what else he could possibly do. All I can think of is that he will want to blame this on whoever, so he can, so Shardlake could just see how, okay, this is the third death. We really need to just, kick everybody out. Just close down the monastery. Forget everything and, Whereas it's like, but there's still a killer out there. I mean, unless he's going to claim that the doctor attacked him, hence he must be the killer, because Jack did kind of imply that when he saw him. So maybe that's the tact he's going to go with, that the doctor was the killer after all, and let's just wrap things up and shut down the monastery, which wouldn't work because the doctor came with Singleton, who was a commissioner of Cromwell. So that won't work. So I don't know. Maybe he's just going to make the doctor out to be another victim of whoever killed Singleton. That would make more sense. Let's see if there's anything else I'm missing. I believe I covered everything for this episode. And with that, I will see you guys in the next one.